You know the person at work that just gets you? The one you exchange glances with in meeting, the one you brainstorm with, the one you talk to about your projects, you help each other out, you have each other's back, you have lunch together, and maybe you even call him your work spouse. Now imagine they get promoted. Yay for them. The twist here is they're now your new boss. Awkward and weird doesn't begin to describe it. These changes of a power dynamic cannot affect only your friendship and potentially destroy it, but they can also change how you're seen by your colleagues. They can affect your reputation or affect your career pathing for better or worse. In this video, I walk you through 3 emotional traps I see people walking into when these power dynamics shift and how to navigate them so you don't lose that friendship that you've built over years and that is really important to your life. And at the same time, don't give up your personal career growth and ambition. Let's break this down. The first emotional trap can sneak up on you. It starts with something that feels more like betrayal or feeling left behind, a certain sense of resentment, even though you might be happy for your friend who got promoted. It's the beginning of a shift you feel you didn't sign up for, and you need to address it before it takes root and really damages your relationship. That feeling of betrayal, a break in loyalty, is quite common, it's normal, and a lot of people tell me when they describe the situation as, I helped them to get there. I helped them prep for the interview. I am actually the better coder or developer. And now they have this job. And I'm supposed to just be another team member. What's underneath this is really this feeling of a loss of relevance. You're no longer the point person for your friend. He cannot go to you and share like he used to. So you feel you're no longer needed, which is quite devastating and feels really personal. There's an element of grief, of course. So before you start ruminating on what you lost and getting resentful, my recommendation is to immediately start a conversation. Your friend and new boss is probably super busy, but you need to address it if you want to preserve that friendship and that bond that you have with your friend. If you think I'll put it off and in 2 or 3 months we can talk about it, it's too late. You need to do it immediately because your personal resentment might grow and you want to avoid that. So initiate a conversation about how your relationship will shift. If you don't talk about it, it will drift and you both just get quieter and more distanced. And it doesn't have to be a big conversation. Just say, hey, things are changing now. I realize that we won't have lunch anymore. We can't gossip about the boss anymore. Can we talk about how we want to move forward? Because I really would miss socializing outside of work or hanging out with you. I realize there are now some new boundaries. Can we talk about it? That kind of clarity and upfrontness doesn't create tension. It actually provides clarity and probably a relief to your friend that you realize this and are willing to shift with him. And you can find out what their expectations are. They need to get accustomed to their own role. And if they're first-time manager, they're probably struggling defining that role of manager to team members. So you could be a vital part supporting him define and get comfortable in his new role because you're his friend. As part of this redefining of the role, it's not just you and your friend redefining, but you need to redefine your own role. By reclaiming your role and redefining your relationship, you have the opportunity to also set new boundaries for yourself. Now that you don't have your friend as a go-to person anymore, what does that mean for your projects and how you do your work? If you feel envy that he progressed, makes more money and gets all the spotlight now, this will give you the opportunity to rethink your own career goals and strategies. Maybe you were holding yourself back over the years because you were so comfortable in how the current work dynamic worked with your friend. And now that shifted, it opens a window for yourself to rethink your own personal goal. If you realize you're not behind, you're not betrayed, but you're actually totally aligned, you'll be fine. Now, once the dust settles of this new power dynamic shift and everybody's in their role, something else usually creeps up. And these are the questions around compensation and personal and professional development. A lot of times that friendship bond somehow prevents people for advocating for themselves when it comes to salary negotiations or compensation questions or asking for professional development. Somehow the trap is that you feel you shouldn't have to ask because your friend knows you better than anybody else. And as your manager now, they should be giving you these opportunities without that you're having to ask. So you're actually shrinking instead of growing. Again, the remedy is only to address it with clarity, authenticity, and straightforward. Just like with any other boss that you've ever had, where you had to advocate for yourself and start negotiations on when you want a raise or performance recognition or professional development. So telling yourself that you're just respectful and you don't want to impose and you don't want to take advantage of the friendship, you don't want to look greedy, is not helpful at all. Make a boundary and say, in this case, I'm going to treat my personal interests for compensation and professional development the same as with any other person, and your friend will respect that. That's their job as a manager. So you address it like with any other manager. You advocate for yourself the same as you did with your previous boss. You prepare some kind of argument of what you've done, your output, your contribution, your expectation, and you lay it out just like with any other boss. If you handle it that way, your friend will actually be hugely relieved that you are showing this kind of professionalism instead of entitlement. Well, you owe me. Well, I helped you on this project. You know I did this. That's entitlement. You bringing up a very detailed catalog of project outputs and successes and metrics is the professional way forward. So now you've had the awkward conversation of how the friendship will change. You have a plan on how to advocate for yourself and your professional growth. And the third trap is really essential and usually creeps in after about 6 months of that promotion and change in power. I had a coachee once who was very upset that his manager was calling him out on being late, showing up for work, submitting subpar work, and he defended himself and said, my friend knows that I had a lot of stuff going on and I was just tired and somebody else quit, and he had all these excuses. So it took a while for us to talk through it and get him back to personal accountability. And when he was honest with himself, he had to admit, yes, he had been late. Yes, his normal work standards were lower than what he used to deliver. And when we dug a little bit deeper, it just showed up that there was still resentment for not being needed anymore, for not having somebody to brainstorm something with. He missed that collaboration. So what is really important is you become aware of how that impact of losing this friend actually impacts your work. If this was your work spouse and you had this dynamic of really bringing out the best in each other, you lost that. It would make total sense that you're no longer at your personal best without that second person that drives you to excel. So how will you replace it? You can't replace the friendship. Snap your fingers and you have a new friend who can be that collaborator, that support, and that competition that provides that fun and energy and spark to the work and the fun that you had on your job. So what are you supposed to do? The solution is you need to rebuild these aspects of collaboration, and maybe in fragmented ways with different people that you had before with this one person. What you can do is look at what aspects of your job were most positively impacted by having this friendship and this peer relationship, and be honest about it. How can you replace it? So number one, figure out how you can bring people into your closer circle. And very often, spark and joy comes back when you're actually helping somebody with less skill than you have. The second part is going back to your own values. What am I standing for? What are my quality standards? What am I personally good at? Where can I thrive? Where do I need a second person or a third person or a team to bring out the best in me? It is really important that you find that spark. Once you're slacking, everybody notices. So you want to address it early and pay attention to that, because it's normal to slip into that mode of it really doesn't matter. And it does matter. So when your best friend becomes your boss, everything changes, but it doesn't have to change for the worst. It can definitely change for the better. You now have an advocate. You have somebody who knows you better than anybody else at work. The story doesn't have to be, I was left behind and they moved on to better things. The story can be, we figured it out, we adjusted, we're still friends. If you're in the middle of a shift like this, then drop a comment and share your experience. Your story might help somebody. If these tips were helpful, please subscribe. If you want help and support in navigating some other challenges at work, watch this next video on how to get promoted, and I'll see you next time. You got this.